This is Gerald Johan van Waas and the educational channel of demonstrations regarding the sounding form theory, which says that every letter is a position in time and space, and combinations of letters are directing you into the position, the direction, the formation process that are expressed in the words. Why it works, how it works, it's all in some different videos, but it's about time I show you the practice, how you can learn to gradually adapt the practical way how this works by doing this yourself after knowing the basics. The basics are already expressed a couple of times. The basics, I will quickly go through what the basics are and then show you some examples, and I will add a difficulty level, and I will start from the most easy level so that you can build it up. This is the most easy level, part 1, the centralized form. So each letter has a certain position in time and space. As I said, the first level of orientation is simply the placement in a space, in a spatial form, on a space, on a position. Not much more than that, and that makes it more easy to work with it. So here are the 3 different levels again of complexity of the letters. These letters are having a numerical order, and the first level of difficulty are letters that are referring to central positions. So we are trying to define the central positions. Central position in the center itself, in one position, or by using 2 positions, or by using 3 positions. The 3 regions that comes forward from it is of course a central position. You go a little bit further and you come into the area of the material, the volume, and if it's even further, you are at the edges. At the periphery, it is translated by the translators of my book, at the edge of what we have. These are the 3 positions, they are there. So the basics of naming objects, of placing objects, are the placements themselves, so that we can define the elements that we have. So this structure that I just gave you is used, and this structure has a complexity that grows, but in a way it is also very simple and simplistic. So you have the central position, the volume position, and the edge position. If you want to extend it, the center positions will go horizontal, the extra positions will have an addition in the vertical way, and the too many the last position is a position of change as well. It is in the diagonal position. So if you add even more, you will get to the edges themselves in the diagonal way. This is the first region, and I will keep myself to the first region in this video, and I will build up words that are only using letters that are having a reference point in this first category. The second category, I will quickly go to it, has the same structure. So it also has the center, volume, borders, but the reference point is different. So we have not just the placement, it's also the time element. So there's a move, there's a direction, so we have something that grows towards a different position. And because it grows, you just don't have a center position, but you have a starting position. So you start to express your references differently as well. So to express it, to understand it, we have here a development in growth. So what is in the volume that has a growth? There is a development. If we have borders in a growth process, we have a finalizing growth process. You see, you have to adapt your abstract thinking a little bit by interpreting the letter positions, by understanding where they are, and by understanding the dependency on them. There's our positions, but not just positions, there are the definitions of positions in a growth process. That's why also the horizontal is not just a horizontal direction, it is a move forward, focus of trying to make the correct change. You see that, so you have to adapt your ideas a little bit. It's not just the volume there, but it is like we are trying to collect the material for what is growing there and so on. So that's more or less the middle part, and the extent is of course when the growth process is already going to different direction. It is not just a diagonal, it's not just the changing aspect, it's also diverting it into a different goal or position. So we are finalizing something there. Last category, very quickly as well, is the full context. So it's not just the growth process, we also see, okay, what do we need everything for? What is the position in general of anything that we have, anything that we can describe? It's mostly a reorientation, a reorganization of space and time. So they are used together this time, give it a new order. So at the starting point, it's not just a new point, it is a reorganization, a refocusing, and so on. So that's the way how you have to think. The last two levels I will leave for another video, but I will start from the very easy reference of space in which we try to focus our elements in the middle, a little bit further, or at the edges, in 1, 2 or 3 positions at the same time. As simple as that. But of course you have to learn to interpret it, even with these simple things. We do that automatically, that we can see the positions and we see what balance it is, and that's why it works, that's why the language works. But to do that consciously, that needs method, that needs a learning process to see different levels at the same time. That's why it will take time for people, even if they look at my videos, before they can do so, that they can act like that. But in this video I will explain it well so that you can learn to do it yourself. And I will use 3 positions only, so these 3 positions only, on a central position only, and letters that are in the first category only. So you have either A, T and K in one position, the central position, U, L and B in the volume positions, or the C, M and X at the edges. As simple as that. 4 words, 5 words, didn't count well. Tak, lam, bull, bat, max. These are words that I could derive from it. I used one word which didn't exist in English, which is the tak. But it's a very good example because it's the most simple word that you can have. It's all on the first level in the number 1, and all the 3 letters of the number 1. I'll use them to start with to make it very easy. So we have 3 positions. As you can see, it's a center position, something is in the volume position, and something is at the border. So it can't be more simple than that. So we are defining the centers. Just with that alone, the A, T, K, and K. Okay, we still don't know how to combine them. So the method to combine them has also to be learned, but I will explain it now. Let's first put it into the right order of the word. So we'll have the T, the A, and the K. So we start from the volume, somewhere in the volume. We go to the center and go to the border. How can we connect them? That's why we have the extra associations when we extend it, when we connect it. We need to define the positions better, and the positions are defined by horizontal, vertical, diagonal positions. So here we have them already. All three letters are with the number 1, so together they still have the number 1. It's 1 with connected with 1, it's what's the English word again? Multiplied with 1 is again 1. It's always in 1, so we keep our focus on one centralized vision. So we have to adapt to that idea as well. This is a helping. The numbers will help us. The numbers will help us to this idea. We have to keep our focus of the center. It's all about center positions, and also in the combination of them, there are center positions. They don't go from 1 to 3. We don't have 3 regions that come out very quickly. No, it starts from one region and it remains within one region. That's what you have to think, how you have to think and how you have to combine before you make any mistakes. Otherwise you would make mistakes to make the combinations. Here we have some method for it. Okay, well, let's add in the volume a center position. So we start from the volume and we go and add a center. It's a combination, but it's also an addition. So in this combination, we add the position of the A on top of what we have. So we have the order, we keep the order of the T and the A. The order has to remain there. So it's not just putting everything on top. Now the order has to be there. So we start from the position of the volume and we remain there in the volume. So we don't have to centralize it, this T position. No, our starting point was not center. Starting point was away from the center. So we remain away from the center, but we add something. So we add this position of the center, and then we add the border from the center. So we have T, A, and K. Result is the positions of T, A, and K. And there are two words that I know that express this word. The tak is a Dutch word and it means branch, and it is exactly what it is. It is a branch. It is breaking apart and towards a side path, and it's very simple fractal actually of that expresses the word tak. It could be the expression of the word fractal even as it is. This is the tak or the branch. Another word that I know that also expresses this is the Polish word, which is yes. And how can you see that this is still correct in our mind of thinking, because in a form it's not expressing yes at all. And that makes it already difficult, that it has positions that not always have a physical formal association. It can also be, you also have to understand what the positions are about. So what is all these are about a central position. This central position is actually all going in a confirmation of the it's not there's no contradiction in it at all. There is a confirmation of going towards the same direction, and all is following still the central lead direction. It's going from this and it's also around the center. It's centered around the center, and it just adds up. So even when you add up extras, our mental focus, our central focus keeps track. It keeps track and adds new elements, and even in progress and in more change, the K is change, the position of change. This change is not changing anything, it's only getting more. So it is actually fitting to yes well. So now you can say, okay, you just concluded this afterwards. That is true, but you have to understand what are the positions in our mindset by using these reference points. They all go from a certain position. It's a centralized position. Do we need to change anything? The only aspect of change is actually the edge of what we can do with it, the border, what we can do with it. But it's from a position of trying to define a center, and in this order, T, A, and K, it can actually be seen as a continuation. I could also explain cat as well, which gets a different results, but also the cat, which is the same word as in English, the cat. It's also about a centralized thinking that you keep. But here, because it starts from the K, or the changing aspect, it's as if saying like, I do what I want, and that's what the character of the cat is. And the character of tak is the opposite. It's not just doing what I want, it's just adding up elements. That's the way of thinking of the abstract thinking that you need. It was easy to form the formulation of the form itself by following the rules, simply by adding the rules in the way I explained you how this works. But by understanding the abstract levels, it might be a bit more difficult for some people, but that's why you need to understand the structure itself. The structure, what are these reference points in numbers as well? What do they mean? How can you associate them further? It takes some experience to do that more often before it will work more fluently after a while. But I will give you plenty of examples, and you will see how this will also improve after a while. Especially this video will explain you also the difficulties in doing so, and what can help you to not make any mistakes. Next letter, lamb. The lamp written with a B is more known in English, but it's the same thing. Lamb has a couple of meanings in Dutch, but I will go through to that later, but I will go to the form first. So the L, it starts from the second position, the volume, so it needs two positions to orient myself upon. The A only needs one position, the M needs 3 positions. So it's slightly more complicated. The L is the formation process itself, so it really goes to make a form. I have the preference to express it like this. I have also my reasons to do so. It's very practical to do so. It is really finding itself a volume. That's what it more or less says. It finds itself a volume. It's making a volume. That's the L. The A, of course, we associated before as either it is just a point of reference of a middle point. If we extend it, we go horizontal. Do we need that now? No, we need another aspect of it. The horizontal way is a guiding point, but in this case A is it's horizontal because it's confirming itself always on the same level, but it's actually always about a centralized position. The centralized position in combination with the formation process is actually not more than keeping its centralized position in the volume by growing. This growing is on the horizontal plane, that's okay, but the growing is in the totality keeping its centralized position. So that's how I have to think to adapt the A to the L information of direction. So when I add the L with the A on top of it, I see here that I'm making a volume, and I will have a centralized, it's centralized somewhere, this making of a volume. And of course I have to centralize my idea as well, because the second letter is the A. So I start from L, go to A in a centralized position in L, but also in a general focus that I will keep as an A. On the other hand, 2 times 1, because L is 2 and A is 1, is 2. So the minimum that I should express it, is of course with at least 2 positions to express this. That's our starting point. Now with the M to it. Here with the M, where is this position? It's there at the borders, so we are at the borders, and at the borders we are making a volume. So at the borders we make more volume. So we will, let's add more volume. I will exaggerate a little bit with more than what we have here. I have 6 extra positions that are forming itself of like a lamb. What does a lamb actually means? It's a lamb with the B at the end. It's also the meaning of lame or paralyzed. So the positions are really breaking open and making more and more and more form around the center, but also at the borders. So what I have is mostly border material. So the border material at the end is more or less what we have as the lamb. The border material which comes together, sticks together, sticking together, and that would fit with all the meanings of lamb. That's my starting point of when working on formation. Is that enough already to double check it, to see like if I really understood it? Not yet. I have my double check in the end. But I have already something that I understand and that I can understand, that I can associate, but it is of course, I can associate it freely because that's my freedom to do so. It could be a fantasy that I do that. No, that's why I have a double check at the end as well, and I will explain that, how I will do so to do this double check that I really have my focus right, because in a formation forming itself during the way you can, there's a bit of freedom of interpretation, and that's a dangerous territory because everything is blurry at the end and everything will fit to whatever you want if you want. It's a dangerous territory just to make the forms fit. So I have to have my double check in the end. I will tell you in the end as well. Next word, bull. Bull is, I used this word because it's on the second level. It's all about volume. It's all making a volume. It's the B at the edges. It's the U in the middle and the L somewhere in the middle. The volume is increasing and the L is even double in the word. So it is making volumes. It's getting more and more volume. That's what the word bull should do. Now how do I need to combine them? The pressure points of B at are at the edges. So where can I add the U? The U only at the edges. So we'll add them in position. I'll add the U and I keep these positions. But that's not all. I also have to have the order of letters. So I had the B. So now I have B plus boo. 2 times boo. But the boo has to have a totality as well. So I have to center my positions as well around a U as second letter. And here I have the U as a second letter. So that is already helpful. I will add one L to it, which means there is even more volume that comes out of it. That's my first idea that I have here. But of course it's working on the edges. I will add also the edges a little bit stronger. It's here, and then a lengthening of the L in the end. In the end I have more or less a form like that. If I work intuitively towards it, I have more or less a form like that. It's not really a bull, it's more like a dog, if I would say. With more L to it of formation, I can already fantasize myself of the B and the L positions in a doubling form, and I have more or less a form like that. That's the intuitive way, and it's a bit dangerous to say like, is it really 100% correct? It's solely working from the formation process. It will already go into the right direction, but you need to have the double check in the end to really make it work. But it will always go into a right direction, more or less, because the formation process itself is adaptive, and it can be an interpretation that not always works very well. Without double references, they can easily be distracted, as it is already here a little bit distracted. Let's go to the next letter combination. I have the word bat. Of course, you know a bat. There are 2 kinds of bats. I mostly will have in my back of the mind, and that's what my fantasy will lead me in my formation process. I will think about the bat which flies around like Batman flies around. It's my Batman in my mind. So what do I have? I have the B, the volume which goes towards the edges. It almost breaks apart. And then 2 times the positioning. I have the positioning of A and the positioning of T. So what I could think of recognize here immediately, because that's nice to do so, is that it is about a volume that is finding its two kinds of positions. And that's indeed what it will have. I have the B, and then it will be centralized there, so that I can focus upon the B or the B's here at the edges. As I said, 2 edges, of course, B around the center, and from there I will add the T. The T is somewhere in the volume, so that's my second positioning. So I have a centralized positioning, and I have a volume focused positioning, and that is my reference point to form a bat with this animal in my mind. It could easily fit to it. It's the bat fits to it. So in my formation process, I think, okay, that I can understand that the positions of the volume which is breaking apart is creating a reference point that is useful. It fits to it. So I think I found my reference points, where bat has been built up, and in a way it is correct, but do you understand all the aspects from that position onwards? Maybe not. Maybe it's just one aspect. It's your mind leads you to follow the formation process. It's always limited. Be careful. This is one of the limited processes that you have, that you can do, that you can express, that you can learn, but it will always be limited. Be careful. You need another reference point, a double check. I'll tell you in the end. Next word, max. Before explaining max, I will explain because I wanted to have a word with some letters of the third position. I have the M and the X, so I will explain the differences between these three words. So first, A, T, and K were positions of a point from the center point. Second letters, the U, L, and B, were about volumes taking a form. The last ones are about borders expressing something different. And if you have three positions, because the number 3 will help you here, if you have three positions and form and see that there is a border that is focused upon a little bit more, the more you put them together, the more you put them apart, you have different focuses on the borders. Or you could focus with the C. You still focus on what the borders keep together. So it is the C. So you have the edges, the limits are kept together in the C. When it's more or less in the middle, then the M will be the next letter, the next level of understanding, the next reference point. Then you have as much volume everywhere. It is spreading its volumes over every part. That's the letter M. And when it's the borders are really stretched apart, it's more, you see, you have the cross points of the X that are more focused upon. These are the three positions that are expressed well with these examples. So these positions, you can see the focus is getting larger, and it's getting a different idea, a different association that you have from there. It's your focal point of that is changing the ideas also of the borders. It's your center position of the borders dominates, or the volume at the borders dominates, or the borders themselves will dominate. That are the three ideas that comes forward. It's all a couple of associations that you can continue from there, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. I'm only going to talk about what can you do with it in the word. In the word max, we only need two of the letters, and one of the other letters is the centralized focus. So we will start from the volume focus, the volume which is in balance, but from where you focus mostly on what you create as a volume from inside. Actually, it could be all the volumes inside, but it's mainly I will focus on the edges there, on the borders themselves, and the X will of course add more attention to the borders. So in the end I will actually have mostly the spreading of the borders alone that should be expressed. Is that well expressed? I'm following my fantasy in the formation process, the way how much I understand it, and I get to some results. Are they good results? Yeah, I can recognize the tack or the branch more or less. I can recognize the lamb more or less. The bull I can recognize more or less. The bat is a bit confusing because you also have a bat that is used in sports, and that doesn't really fit well yet. So you could wonder, so what did I miss? Yes, you missed certain things. And the max even, you see some arrows, but are these arrows the most important thing? There, or is that really the maximalizing? Shouldn't the max be the round positions? it is the choices that are made here during the formation process can be confusing, and after a while, yeah, your formation process is blurry and it doesn't work with this method. So in that way you could say, okay, this method does not work. And why doesn't it work? Because you need to deal with so many things at the same time. You have to calculate these things well as well. And in your mind, when we hear something, we calculate it so quickly what we hear that we immediately hear what's the starting point and what's the end point. And when we start to formulate them in the middle, we sometimes keep hanging in somewhere in the middle in the formation process, and it becomes blurry. No, the main focus when we hear something is it's much more important to say where did we start from, where did we end from, and how it's filled in is actually less important. So these formation processes are actually the least important of it. The effects, what it will get, is much more important. So let's do that and refocus by the double check of the letters. All of the letters are actually have only 3 positions that matter, so that's very easy. What is the most important thing at the end when you hear a word? That it should have the correct effect, that it will direct us into the right position, that we immediately see, okay, we will have to go to that direction. That effect is immediate, it's just almost like one point, it's in that direction and nothing else. If already with bat, for instance, if you have already at the end, is that the last effect that I need, or did I'm over focusing on the whole formations process? Yes, I did. So let's focus on the last letter first and then do the double check. Do we really understand the last letter, the first letter, and then the combination by the middle letter? Let's do so. So, are these really the end effects of the words and how we understand the words? With tack or the branch, we have the diagonals, as you can see. It's just one diagonal. It's in the position of 1. So, is it ending with one diagonal in one direction? Is that the branch? Yes, it is. As a branch, it is correct. It's still going in one direction. And it is going in the diagonal direction. There are a lot of associations you can have in the diagonal, but it fits with the word. You understand it. With the max, it's also in the diagonal, but in 3 positions, also in 3 directions. And is that the end effect of the max? Will it go in all 3 directions of space? Yes. It goes in all 3 directions of space. The max will extend itself to all directions. We understand its effect. It's correct. So we understand it. The bat. Where does it end? In which letter does it end? In the T. Where is the position of the T? You could say it's in the vertical. No, it's a point. It's a point. And that's what it is. This vertical, horizontal, diagonal is not always needed. It's only a positioning. It's not always needed when you have just the first letter positions. It's a point, one point in time. If you really want to know where it is more or less of time, it's off edge, it's off center. So you could express it as a point, which is a bit off center. But the point, the pointing, the one-dimensional frame there, is the correct ending, and that's how you understand the bat better if you focus on that effect. With lamb, you have with the M at the end. It has a maximalized form. The M, it's in the middle of the scheme at the end, so it's at the edges, the borders, so the limits what it can reach. But it's in the middle as well. It's in the volume part, so it's the volume which goes to its maximalized formation process without disturbing anything. So it is really the maximum without breaching its border. So it's the maximum of what it can have So I express it like that. Is that the same? Is that what happens with lamb? The maximalized form? Yes, I can see that like that. And then the bool, the last word, is 2 times the letter L, so it's the L in 2 positions, so it's in the full range of positions. So it's forming itself in 2 directions. Is that recognizable for the bull? Yeah, the forming in 2 directions for the bull. Now it's even more visible than what I expressed. So let's now add the starting point, so that we know that we have a starting point and an end point, and how do they match? Tack, I have a starting point of a point and it goes in a different direction. Of 1 point goes in different, yes, it fits. The lamb it's a formation process. It goes to the to a kind of maximalizing form. Does that fit with lamb in all of its ideas, what it expresses? Yes, it fits with that. And the bull, does that fit with the breaking in 2 parts and then forming 2 directions from there? In a way, yeah, I can understand it. For me, it fits still more or less. I can imagine that it will the breaking open and then go into the directions. I can have this breaking open and then go into the directions. I can understand it from the bull in all variations that I can imagine what the bull is. The bat also breaking apart, open in the breaking open in a point. Is that fitting with the bat? The 2 ideas of what bat is? Yes, now it's fitting much more. It's even with the bat, which is breaking open and it's pinpointing itself. Actually, the bat is a reference point also to how the bat itself has a reference point of its own for going towards a point, and everything which is around it as space and as reference points, that will go fit well enough for me. And the bat itself that smashes itself also in also breaks apart the space again, just like the bat breaks apart the space to orient itself. It are associations that I can make from here. Is this now fantasy at that point? Yeah, maybe it is. But the B of breaking apart, the T at the end point, and then we'll have to see what's in between. Will it still fit? We'll have to investigate it further. The max now, the M, it starts from the M, so it starts already from the maximum of the form, and in the maximum of the form goes in all directions. Yes, I think we understand it better already. Now, how it grows will be expressed by the middle letter. So do these middle letters also add up to the meanings that are used for it, for the words? In tack we have the branch, we also have the yes. The A is a confirmation of the direction, so yes, in both ways it will still fit. For the lamb, it's a confirmation of what is going on. In the 2 ideas of what lamb can be, it is still fitting, so okay. With bull, it is it's in 2 directions that the form is forming is breaking apart and getting more form. Does that fit with the bull? It fits with the symbol of the bull very well. I could fit that in it if I want. The bat, confirmation of what is of the direction of something which is breaking apart and goes into comes down to 1 point. Does that fit? It needs a bit more preparation for that. I have that explained somewhere else, I remember. So this point, the confirmation of one direction, which starts from breaking something apart and coming down to 1 point where it has been sensed, is something that you can understand from the word, but it needs more explanations, which I will not do at this point. It's just about learning how to come through these things. The max is much more easy to understand because it's already starts from M, which is the maximum of the volume that it can get with before it is breaking down into different directions. The A is the confirmation of this process, and the X, which is actually going to all directions at once, can be only the maximum of what you can get out of a confirmation process, of a formation process at the end. So there's that will fit well. So only thanks to some extra double checks, so that's why this theory is also needed to use as a reference point, we get more to the reality of these of what is really expressed in the words. It needs some double checks and double check again, and do it some other time, and check it some other time, until you really understand what's going on in the words. In some words it will take longer, but at the end you will know the essence in it. And the best thing is that, and the most positive thing that you can get, is when words mean 2, 3, 4, 5 different, completely different things, because then thanks to that you will know if you have the right positioning, and you understand the positioning, because only the right positioning and the interpretation of it will make it fit with all these different ideas, how you can express it and what it understands. I say that every word only has one meaning of reference points, and this video was already expressing some guidance how you can come to it. It didn't give the best results of all of these letters or words, but it already gives you an idea of the thinking process, the thought process, and what you need for it to come to it. For me, it is clear that every letter, it has a fixed direction and reference points in time and space, and they are used anyhow. It's only a matter of analyzing it, trying to interpret it, and derive what is already there, derive the ideas that are already there, and recognize what is already there. And that aspect might be easier if we would be able to make it even more scientific and mathematical than it is right now, but we have already an idea how to work with it with these reference points alone, in a way that we can also learn it intuitively. And that's what I'm trying to get to you, or get an example to you in these couple of videos. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this one too. The next level of words will be expressed pretty soon. This was Gerald Vawaz. There's a website too with a list of demonstrations, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel if you would like. Thank you very much. Bye bye.